At a recent Roosevelt Institute conference, my next guest said it's time to examine the Federal Reserve, calling the system, quote, corrupt, based on what he says are clear conflicts of interest. Joseph Stiglitz is with us. He is the Nobel Prize-winning former chief economist at the World Bank and now a professor at Columbia University. Joseph, good to have you on the program. Thanks so much for joining us once again.
Nice to be here again.
So you said corrupt. What do you mean by the Fed is corrupt?
Well, what I was trying to bring out was the fact that the regional reserve banks, the New York Federal Reserve Bank, has a key role in regulation and in the last crisis in bailing out the banks. But the heads of these organizations are chosen by a committee which is dominated by the big banks that are being bailed out. So you have the people bailing out appointed by the people who they bail out. It smells bad, it looks bad, it undermines confidence in our system of government. And when we see the kind of thing that happened in the AIG bailout, it raises deep questions, the kind of questions I raised in my book, Free Fall.
So what are the answers then to that? You think that the Consumer Protection Agency should not go under the Fed's leadership, perhaps creating more conflict? Do you think that the Fed should focus only on monetary policy? What is a better solution in your view?
What you just said is absolutely right. We need a Financial Product Safety Commission regulated by those who will lose with bad regulation, not those who are going to win. The people in the financial markets, many of them did very well by the bad products. So you want the regulators to be people who represent the interests of those who will suffer if there's inadequate regulation. There's also here a question of accountability. I think everybody agrees that the Fed did a horrendous job in regulating prior to the crisis, and to reward them with giving them more regulatory powers after this failure really undermines a system of accountability.
So as far as the financial reform then and what it should look like, systemic regulator you agree with, correct?
Excuse me, I didn't hear.
A systemic regulator,
yes,
ensuring there's no too big to fail institution out there.
Absolutely.
You agree with resolution authority so that the authorities can have the right tools to close the bad parts of a business and keep others going, right? Resolution authority you think should be in there?
Absolutely.
Consumer Protection Agency?
Absolutely.
Then you've got risk retention, where you ensure one institution holds on to the risk and doesn't spread it out. And then you've got a derivatives exchange. These are some of the elements being spoken about. Do you buy into all of those areas?
Absolutely. There are a couple of other things that have not gotten enough attention. One of them is the problem of too big to fail. As the head of the Bank of England, Mervyn King, has pointed out, if you're too big to fail, you're too big to be. You have perverse incentives.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. It sure is. All right, let me ask you this, because your newest book, Free Fall: America, Free Markets, and the Sinking of the World Economy, published in January 2010. Let me get your thoughts on the world economy. You have been advising Greece in some manner in terms of what they need to do to get out of their debt. Tell me how worried you are, if at all, about Greece, and what do you think would be the necessary tack to take?
Well, I'm not really worried about Greece. Its debt to GDP ratio is 120, much lower than that of Japan. If there were confidence in Greece, Greece's ability to make its debt payments, which I think there's every reason for that confidence, the interest required to service the debt would only be 2–3% of its GDP, something well within its capabilities. And what its government has already done in curtailing the deficit, which is largely a result of the global financial downturn, although before the crisis, it was not in great shape. The important point is, if you look at what is happening in the other countries, like Spain, where there was a surplus before the crisis, where the debt-GDP ratio is only 60% of debt to GDP, and you see the kind of speculative attack that is going on there, or has gone on there, you really understand that unless Europe has a framework for helping these countries, the whole Euro project is at risk.
Well, as far as the Fed's exit strategy then, is this another sort of unknown out there in your mind? Do you think the Fed has done a good job of beginning to shut that program down?
Well, the real concern that I have is on the quantitative easing part. The fact that the Fed has effectively been buying almost all the mortgages in the country, helped keep interest rates on mortgages down, exposed to end next month. It's not going to dump the mortgages on the market, but the fact is that the whole flow of mortgages has been dominated by the Fed. If it's not buying that, that flow, almost surely interest rates will rise. In a context of a mortgage market that is already frail, with the number of foreclosures expected to be even higher in 2010 than 2009, 2.5 to 3.5 million, one can't help but worry.